Well, hi, and welcome to another LRCC Soundbite. This week is the week that the church remembers Jesus going back to heaven. Well, actually, it would have been last Thursday, but since this is the closest Sunday, a lot of churches will use today to think about it. Now, you might remember that before I was talking about the Ten Commandments for the last few weeks, I'd been telling the story of Moses and some of the key events and things that had happened in his life. Receiving the Ten Commandments was one of them. But today I was thinking about whether there are any similarities between Jesus going back to heaven and the different encounters that Moses had with God. Now, around the time that Moses was going to get those 10 commandments, God had been showing him and the rest of the people the way to travel, the way to go through a great big pillar of smoke that they were following every day. Now, when Jesus and the people reached this mountain called Sinai, they found that this pillar became a great cloud that covered the mountain. Now, if you've ever been climbing mountains in the UK, I'm sure that's a sight you're familiar with. I know I spent a few years living in North Wales. I've climbed many mountains in thick cloud, and I can see how that might appear uncomfortable, maybe even scary to the people, even though they'd been following God in this way for the last several weeks. I remember one time sitting and eating lunch, and we were in thick cloud. It was halfway up Mount Snowdon. On the way down, we saw the place where we'd eaten lunch, but the cloud had completely cleared. What we realised at that moment was just how close we'd been sitting to a drop of hundreds of feet down the side of the mountain. You just don't know what's there in the cloud. It was in a situation like this that Moses climbed the mountain to meet with and talk to God. He got all the law and the commands for the people. A couple of thousand years later, we'd find Jesus up a different mountain with a few of his friends. They too would be covered in thick cloud as Jesus started to change before their eyes. He became bright and shining. Something of who he was as God was there for his friends to see. And they saw him talking to two people. One was a prophet called Elijah, and the other was none other than Moses. Of course, Moses had actually died thousands of years previously, but with God, anything and everything is possible. This was Moses as he is in heaven, talking with Jesus and encouraging him for the journey that he had yet to take. From the cloud that surrounded Jesus and his friends and Moses and Elijah, there came a voice. Just like the Israelites had heard all those thousands of years before when they heard God talk to them from the cloud, here they hear the voice of God again, telling Jesus' friends to listen carefully to everything Jesus was going to say. And then in a moment, it was all gone. Jesus was back as he'd always been. Moses and Elijah, everyone else had gone. Just Jesus and his friends remained. And so, a while later, Jesus had died and risen again at Easter, and then the time came for him to go back to heaven. The Bible says that as Jesus went, he was hidden by a cloud, and his friends were just left wondering what to do next. Well, next week we'll find a bit out about the next bit of that story, but for today, it really just remains for me to say that Jesus did say that one day he would come back again, and come back the same way that his friends had seen him leave. I have no idea when or where, but as a Christian, I do believe that one day that will happen. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe not. I suppose one thought I just wanted to leave you with this week that comes to mind from these stories is that even in the dark and foggy or even scary places, God is still there and will look after us. All we have to do is trust him, because wherever we might go, he's already been there. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time. God bless.